In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to work with the player properties in Articulate Quizmaker. We'll be taking a look at the features, the question list, colors and effects, text labels, and working with the browser. So without further ado, let's head on over to Quizmaker and get you started. When you're in Quizmaker, you can access the player properties by clicking on the Player button. Once you do, the Player Properties a dialog box will open, and you will see that you'll have access to features, question list, colors and effects, etc. Let's begin by taking a look at the features. Now, features, what we're talking about here are really the layout that you see over here on the right. And this is a live layout. It's a live view, so you can actually come over here and get a sense for how this is going to function. So the first thing that we have here is quiz title. Now, the title is initially going to be set to the name of your Quizmaker file, but you can go ahead and change that right here. So maybe this is a psychology quiz number 1, and you'll see that that will be updated live right over here on the right. So you can also choose to display the question list or not. So if you'd like the learner to be able to see the questions, you can have the question list present, and you can have it on the top right or the top left. You get to choose where you'd like that to be. Speaking of questions, you can choose to have the learner submit one question at a time, and that means that they will receive feedback after they submit the question, or submit all at once. In this case, they can navigate back and forth between the questions and change their answers at any point in time, and then at the end, all of the answers will be submitted. So you have the option there to choose a little bit more about the behavior of the quiz right from the player properties. Also, we have volume and seek bar. And you'll notice that once again, what I choose up here is going to impact what you see down here below. So that's a little bit about working with the layout and the properties here. Now let's go take a look at the question list. Now, as I mentioned, we can have the question list on the top right, we could have the question list top left, or no question list whatsoever. So we can take care of some of these items right here. But if I select question list, you'll see that I have a lot more options. So right from here, you'll see the questions listed in the question list, and these are actually the stems from the questions themselves. So if you'd like to change this, perhaps you don't want the question stems here, you just want a generic question 1, question 2. Well, what you could do is you could double click on a question title and rename it right from here, or use the rename question icon down below. So perhaps this is going to be question 1, and you'll notice over on the right in the preview that is dynamically updated for me. Question 1, question 2. Now, at any time that you're not happy with the choices that you've made, if you want to reset the menu, you can simply select Reset Question Titles, and it'll reset it for you. Down here in the lower left, we have the opportunity to remove a question from the question list. So it is hidden here, so it is not going to display. Over here on the right, we have some other properties, some additional options in terms of the question. Navigation. Do we want the navigation of the quiz to be free, restricted, or locked? So if you want the learner to only be able to move forward, okay, and not go back and check anything else out, we would lock the navigation down so they can only move forward. We could restrict it so that they can move backwards after they have completed a section, or free, which means that they can freely move about the quiz. So that's a way to set some additional options right here. We could also wrap some long question titles. If I click OK, you'll notice that the question titles are wrapped here. So just encourage you to play around with some of the options here and see what these will do. But that's a little bit about the question list. Now, next step, let's take a look at the colors and effects. Now, colors and effects are a great way to further customize your quiz look and feel. So over here on the right, you see the standard Quizmaker color scheme. If you go into the color scheme drop-down menu, you'll see that we have some other pre-built themes available. So maybe we go dark blue, and you'll notice that the player shell changes, the list drop down here changes, the hover on the list changes, the text color changes. So these items are all preset in these schemes. However, you can also build your own. So let's say that you're working for a company that would like to use its own color scheme here, its corporate branding colors in the player. You would select Show Advanced Color Editing, and now you'll see that you have full access to all of the elements here in this player, and you can really drill down and get very specific. So let's say the base, this main background color that is selected, top color, bottom color. Maybe I know that I've got some corporate colors here, and this one right here that I have, I am going to go and select it. And in this more colors area, you will see HTML, RGB, HSL. So if you know what your RGB code is for your corporate color scheme, you can simply drop those in here and then add them to custom colors to save those. So you can see here, we can start to go through and change the background. I can go in and change the list background, the list items, the menus. I have a lot of opportunity here to really customize the look and feel of the player. And at any time that I decide that, boy, this isn't looking like I wanted to, I can simply come up here, reset the color scheme, and go back to where it was. And if I do get something that I like, if I get it all set, I don't want to have to recreate this every single time that I create a quiz. I can save the color scheme and I can actually export that file, give it to my coworkers, and they can use it as well. So it's a great feature here. Also, one last thing here in the colors and effects, the player font. I might decide that I want something a little bit different in terms of the font, so I can choose a different font type. Bring it in, you'll see that the font type has changed over here on the right. So colors and effects, just a quick way to go about altering the look and the feel of your quiz player. Next up, text labels. Let's go take a look at text labels. So text labels are another great way to localize and customize your content. So when I speak of localization, anything that is built in, any of the messages that are preset in QuizMaker, so the word question list, the submit button, I can quickly localize for a particular language. So if I know I'm going out to a French audience, I can update that, and you'll see that all of the built-in terms have been localized for that language. Now, the information that I put in is not going to be localized. So if I have the word QuizMaker, for example, QuizMaker quiz, my question title, anything that I'm inputting, that is not going to be translated automatically. I'll have to take care of that. However, all of the built-in features, those will be translated. Now, with that said, I can also come in with these custom. If I want to customize, let's say the submit button down here. Maybe I want this to say something different. Maybe I want it to say enter. So I come over here. I use the word enter. I'm going to update this. And you will see that that is now updated. So all of the built-in messages that the learner receives in the quiz here, and you will see a lot of them, you have the opportunity to come in and alter what they say. So that's just a little bit about using text labels. Now let's go take a look at your browser settings. So the browser settings are really about how the browser and the QuizMaker player are going to relate to one another. Browser size. Do we, when the learner launches this quiz, do we want the quiz to launch within the browser at the browser's current size? Do we want to resize that browser to an optimal size to fit around this quiz? Or do we want their browser to fill the entire screen? On the player, then do we want the quiz player to scale to fill the browser window? Or do we lock the player at its optimal size? Now these two will play off of one another. So if I, for example, say resize the browser to fill the screen and scale that player to fill the browser window, we're going to get a much larger quiz versus if we locked the player at its optimal size. So play with these two a little bit to get a sense for what's going to work best for you and for your learners. Down here, launch player in a new window. If you know that you have learners that are using a lot of variety in terms of their browsers, it's usually a good idea to launch the player in a new window. It's going to create a launch page for you. And then you can choose to display the window with browser controls or no browser controls and allow the user to resize their browser. So really want to encourage you to work with these three, test them out, do some testing with your users to make sure that you've got the optimal settings. Down here, resume. So let's say the learner starts a quiz and then they leave the quiz. When they come back, are they allowed to resume the quiz? Yes or no? Never resume says, nope, sorry, you cannot resume the quiz. Always resume will automatically resume the quiz for them, and then prompt will prompt them to pick up right where they left off. And when running an LMS, this option down here, ignore flash cookie, this is about how the LMS, if you are running your quiz off an LMS, is going to resume that information. So if you have this checked, the quiz is going to resume by using the LMS's bookmarking feature if your LMS supports it. If it's unchecked, your content will resume using the LMS's resume data. but it will use the flash cookie if the LMS doesn't support Resume. So really want to encourage you on that to work with your LMS administrator to see what is going to work best. And finally, down here, text is read from left to right, right to left. So if you're using some right to left languages, you'll want to pay attention to this option here as well. And then finally, after you're done getting all of this set up, your colors and your effects and such, and your player features, what you can do is you can save these items right here. So you can do a save as, give it a unique name. You can also export it out to your coworkers, for example, if you'd like to share that with them, or reset. So if I reset, whoop, you'll see that everything goes back to the way it was when we first started off the tutorial. So some settings right up here in the player as well. So that's just a little bit about working with the player properties in Articulate Quizmaker. Should you have any questions about player properties or anything else that is Quizmaker related, please join us in the eLearning Heroes community. Stop on by the forums, hang out with us, ask your questions. We're going to be there with a lot of other users and e-learning professionals, sharing tips, best practices, and such. And we're going to do our best to help you out with any questions that you have. So once again, stop by the eLearning Heroes community and we will do our best to help you out. Take care.